Just checking in. Can you hear me?
Yes, Councillor Hopkins.
Thank you.
Can I be heard right now? Elizabeth, Can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Okay, good. Thank you. So it's taking me a couple of moments here. Josh, have we started?
You can start the meeting whenever you want, Your Worship.
All right, thanks very much. Well, colleagues, thanks very much as we start this special SPPC meeting relating to the 2021 budget. And as you know, that is at the direction of the budget chair. So what I'd like to do is pass this over to Deputy Mayor Josh Morgan, please. Go ahead, Josh.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for calling the meeting to order. I will read a statement. The City of London is committed to making every effort to provide alternate formats and communication supports for council standing or advisory committee meetings and information upon request. To make a request for any city service, please contact accessibility@london.ca. or 519-661-2489, extension 2425. To make a request specific to this meeting, you can contact sppc@london.ca. I will look for any disclosures of pecuniary interest from colleagues. Okay, seeing none in the chambers, none on the Zoom. We have no consent items. We have one scheduled item, which is 3.1, the public participation meeting for the 2021 budget update. Before we start that item and open the public participation meeting, I just wanted to make a couple of comments. We will be opening the public participation meeting, and we will be having participation from delegations from both the committee room, 1 and 2. I believe committee room 5 is also accessible, correct? Yep. And for the first time, we'll have the ability for Londoners to call in. They have already done so, and there is a queue waiting for us on that line. The rules will apply to everybody who are participating, and that is a 5-minute delegation. I will ask everybody to be respectful in their comments, certainly share the viewpoints that you need to share on the budget. This night is really about council listening to the feedback of the community, and they'll do so in a variety of areas. With the phone option, which is new, I will appreciate everyone's patience. There will be a slight pause as we let each and every person on the call. I will still apply the rules in the same way. They will be heard in council chambers and on the Zoom meeting. They will also be able to hear me should I need to interject on the delegation or let them know that their time is up. All this has been communicated to them in advance, and we'll work through that as best we can. I'll get regular updates from the clerk about how many are remaining on the queue. There are currently 5, but we are going to go to the committee rooms first when we start the public participation meeting. I do want to say this option took a lot to pull together as we moved from yellow to orange. Providing other and additional safe options for public participation meetings was a pretty important thing for us to consider. It was not a small amount of work, and I know that a team, including the city manager, the clerks, IT, and a number of others worked through the weekend to not only come up and design the system, but also test it to ensure it was working properly. It came at the request of Councillor Mosali and myself, who received a number of inquiries about this when it was indicated that we'd be moving to orange. And so I want to let Councillor Salee just make a comment before we proceed with the public participation meeting. Councillor Salee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to really say thanks to staff from Lynn Livingston, City Clerk, Matt Daly, and Communications Team, ITS, everyone. It was a very quick turnaround. Spoke to them after hours, and within a couple of days, this is a reality. So I just want to say again, excellent work by the city staff, and thank you for everything. And really appreciate this, and especially considering it's a brand new option that we're dealing with. So again, my sincere thanks and appreciation for such the prompt response. And I know you guys had to work over the weekend to make this a reality for Londoners, but it was important work, and I just wanted to thank you.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open the public participation meeting. I'm going to look for a motion for colleagues. For colleagues who are remote, I hope you have logged into the eScribe system. If you haven't, this is your short notice reminder. My apologies for that. But I'll look for a mover for opening the public participation meeting. I see Councillor Lehman, seconded by Councillor Lewis. We will open that. Oh, any discussion? No, seeing none? Okay, we'll open that for voting.
I vote yes, Mr. Chair.
And Chair, similar to Councillor Kaibaga, I am also voting yes until I get my eScribe hooked. So that's we're in the process.
Closing the vote, the motion's passed 15-0.
Thank you. And with the public participation meeting open, we will go to the committee room in a second. I'll just draw colleagues' attention. There are a number of written submissions on the added agenda. We will end up receiving those, including the public comments at the end of the public participation session. So at this point, I will go to the committee rooms first. Just a reminder for those listening in the committee rooms, you will have 5 minutes. I will want to get us through as many people as possible, so I will be fairly strict with that time limit. Again, the floor is yours to share your comments. Often delegations sometimes throw a question into the mix. There is not an opportunity for us to have a back and forth during this time. It is your chance to share your thoughts. If there is a question that arises that our staff can answer, I'm going to have our finance staff answer it at the end of the entire slate of delegations, and we'll simply be answering questions that the treasurer feels need to be responded to today. But really, it's about your comments, and so we're looking forward to hearing them. So I'll go to the committee room to start.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Council. Joe Fontana, a resident of downtown London. To say that these are unprecedented times would be an understatement. I think, first of all, let me compliment the municipal government, our government, as well as the provincial and federal governments for recognizing the great pain that is out there because of this pandemic. And the problem is that it's not over. And we're right in the midst of this, not only here in London and Middlesex, but throughout the province and the country and the world. This is about budget, and to understand budget requirements is to understand what's going on in the community. There's no doubt that this is a health security issue. It's an economic and financial security issue. It's a food security issue. And my simple message to you is because there are more people that are homeless, more people that are at our food banks, more people that are still unemployed. Small businesses have been ravaged. And today, as we move from yellow to orange, is another indication of the pain that small businesses feel. And so my bottom line is that to talk about a 3.8% increase in taxes or a 4-point increase in taxes would be highly irresponsible, in my opinion, because one has to recognize that people are suffering. Homeowners, renters, small businesses especially, who have had to lay off hundreds and thousands of people, they're struggling right now. I don't have to tell you how many businesses we've already lost in the downtown area. And while I'm a new resident of downtown, I can tell you that you walk downtown and it's pretty bad out there. So I think that there's an opportunity for this council to demonstrate leadership, as both provincial and federal governments have spent immense amount of taxpayers' money, recognizing that the cost of money is fairly inexpensive these days. And they've done that because they recognize that people couldn't afford to pay the rents or to pay the commercial rents that small businesses. So I'm here to ask you to take a look, at least for 2021, that you freeze the taxes, recognizing that amount would help those people who are renting, those people who are trying to pay their mortgage, more importantly, the small businesses who are trying to survive. And 3.8%, if I can recall, might be somewhere between $15 and $20 million in a $1 billion budget. As it has been done before, it can be done. And I think that the council has to recognize that this is no time to raise taxes. Even the feds in the province don't believe in raising taxes. In fact, some of them have talked about reducing taxes in order to make life a little better and easier for people. And yes, it's about setting priorities, but I think within your budget, there is enough room to be able to say 2021 and maybe 2022 should be a tax holiday for everyone, recognizing that 3.8% is a lot of money for a lot of people, whether or not you're a senior, whether or not you're a person that's just struggling, still trying to find employment. So that's my message to you. I think you can be creative. I think you can have the courage to say, let's look inside for any savings that we can find. I know that everybody's sacrificed, especially the staff at City Hall. And these have been trying times for just about everyone. So I'm here to say that 2021 and 2022, you should hold the taxes to zero. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your comments, and also thank you for introducing your name. I failed to mention that we appreciate when the speakers can introduce their name and provide their address if they're willing to before they speak, so we know who we're hearing from. I'll continue on in the committee room.
I think I can speak.
Yep, go ahead.
I can go ahead, right? Okay. My name is Anna Maria. I live at 123 John Street. My last name is Velastro. And it's very rare when the community and industry find consensus on issues. And that's exactly what happened, not at the recent public meeting on the tree bylaw, but on the original public meetings on the tree bylaw. Both the community and industry agreed that there's no point spending money on a tree planting program if we don't have a bylaw that protects those trees. So otherwise it's just 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards. And it's so rare to have both industry and the community agree that this is something that has to go forward. We're not protecting our trees. And there was a consensus that the tree bylaw should protect young trees, which form the lower canopy, and heritage trees. And there was consensus that it should come down to 20 centimeters so that it captures species that will never reach a 50 centimeter diameter in which they can be protected. And I feel that hiring the people to educate, to have an educational program, a public outreach program, and hire the people needed to have a proper tree bylaw that protects trees is not a big strain on the budget. And what I would like to see with my tax dollars is not to have big infrastructure projects go forward, but instead use money that, that better services the people of this city. The cities are judged based on their transit system, and they're based on how green they are. And I don't mean rapid transit, I just mean basic transit, bus transit. And I feel like that's where the priority for the budget should be, not on widening roads, not on expropriating properties, but on the basics. And so I'm asking that you consider, I'm frustrated that staff overrode the public sentiment on this. And I'm frustrated that council overrode the public sentiment on this. Londoners spoke, there was consensus. I don't think it's appropriate to override that. So I'm asking that you please uphold the wishes of people who participate in those public meetings, that you respect what they'd like to see done, and that you find the little bit of money to hire 1 or 2 arborists and have an outreach program and have a proper tree bylaw so you're not planting trees that aren't protected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If we could have the next person in the committee room.
Good afternoon. My name is Moses Latigo. I'm a Londoner. I live in the northeast end of town. I'm an African. I'm a Black Canadian, a father, a Christian. Now, I share this because these are the contexts which inform the statement which I've written right now. It's really a statement that represents a call on you, London leaders, to act with a moral courage we have yet to see displayed. Now, 2020 obviously has been replete with, public demonstrations of the kinds of frustrations citizens around the country, around the world, but especially in London, have. Just a few months into the summer, we had the largest, as far as I know, an unprecedented organizing of, Londoners coming together to shout out a call for justice. This was the Black Lives Matter gathering that, I trust each of us are familiar with. And so it's partly against that background that I share this punch. So over a year ago, a few friends and I started a research group that was intended first to understand and then to love our neighborhood better. We are a diverse coalition united by a common faith, a common Christian faith, and a desire to see the dignity and quality of life of our neighborhoods enhanced. We often read a passage from the Bible which says, God, in which God says, seek the peace and prosperity of the city, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. Now, 75% of people in my neighborhood, again, I'm speaking about Northeast London, are Canadian born, 4% of whom identifying as Indigenous, 2% are non-Canadian citizens. The top non-official languages spoken in my neighborhood at homes are Nepali, Spanish, Vietnamese, Mandarin, Kurdish, and Swahili, among others. I happen to speak Swahili and others among those. Now, ethnic and cultural groups are well established within these communities. And many of these have leaders within those communities as well, respected leaders. Now, these communities, as internally vibrant as they are so replete with the social ills the budget in question seeks to address. Many are facing food insecurity, housing insecurity, employment instability, and hidden, yet constantly evolving mental health crises. Furthermore, the interlinkages between systemic anti-Black racism and its negative association to negative outcomes in terms of mental health are continually hard to ignore. So how does the City of London respond to some of these realities in my neighborhood and in neighborhoods around London? Well, any cursory basic reading of the city's budget reveals its priorities. It shows that we don't trust communities and their leaders, or we don't trust dedicated professionals whose life's work and experience richly qualify them to address the disparate needs which are urgent in many of these communities. Instead, this budget assumes that the police is overwhelmingly adept at carrying the heavy load of enhancing the dignity and quality of life of London's marginalized communities. This budget shows that the City of London trusts cops to do the work of non-law enforcement conflict mediators, youth outreach teams, case workers, mental health counselors, crisis response teams, maintenance workers, data analysts, liaisons to public agencies, and many others. I mean, this is what just a basic reading of the city's budget priorities in terms of what services have been earmarked, to what percentages and so forth. This is what it reveals where the city's priorities are. And so it's against that background that I personally, call on you, the city's leaders, to act with a moral courage. Now, you see, my faith compels me to pray for you, our leaders, and with good reason. Your work, your job is not easy. That much I know. So I urge you, and to this end, I will continue to pray, to act with a moral courage that trusts communities and their leaders enough to fund the solutions they contribute to the many, many, many needs we have in our communities. And it's obvious to us that the realities of COVID-19 have only exacerbated these truths. The previous speaker commented as much. Now, I believe, and I'm convinced, that a critical part of this courage, this moral courage, must begin and will be demonstrated by prioritizing taxpayer money on the needs of these communities more than disproportionately spending it on policing these communities. The status quo as it is not satisfactory. It does not paint the sort of honest picture we want our communities to be about.
Your
And so
time,
this is my call to you.
your time
to
is
act
up.
with a moral power. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We can continue on with the committee room.
Good evening, councillors. My name is Alexandra Kane, and I'm representing Black Lives Matter London. At one point in history, people demanded an end to slavery. We cried out for freedom. Of course, there was opposition, but slavery ended. At one point in history, we demanded the end of segregation. We cried out for equality. Of course, there was opposition, but segregation ended. At this point in history, we're crying out for an end to police brutality. We're crying out for humanity. Of course, there is opposition, but the institution that is the police will end. One of the more discouraging dialogues is that the words of defund the police is such a controversial statement. Apparently, we'd get further along with softer, more approachable language. It's phenomenal to witness political powers be outraged at the words defund the police and not be outraged at the disparaging amounts of police violence perpetrated upon Black and Indigenous lives. A terrorist is defined as a person who uses unlawful violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. The only difference between a terrorist organization and the police system is the word unlawful. Qualified immunity has allowed the police to get away with violent arrests, racially motivated attacks, and murder. Spending in and around $400,000 paying LPS Constable Nicholas During, who was found guilty of failing to provide the necessities of life to Indigenous local Deborah Lee Christian, is a disgusting use of community funds. How many unjustified use of force cases on Black and Indigenous people do politicians require to create actionable changes that defend us? In some of these conversations, it seems council feels caught with only being able to take issue so far. The purpose of divesting London police services is to establish these incredible and researched alternatives to policing. Black Lives Matter London and thousands of Londoners who have signed the petitions propose the following alternatives. Create and utilize unarmed mediation and intervention teams. A large portion of police work involves responding to non-criminal events that are related to public safety and well-being. It has been estimated that 50 to 80% of the calls police respond to are non-criminal and concern incidents such as alarms, disturbances, domestic disputes, traffic accidents, sick or injured persons, overdoses, and mental health related calls. My sources are also cited on defund.ca under the national list of demands. We need mental health ambulances, sending 2 mental health nurses and a paramedic to respond to calls, or 2 social workers and a paramedic. Police presence is triggering, and although LPS has earmarked funds towards mental health supports, they are still involved in each mental health related call. Police presence is a trigger. Police presence is a trigger. How many more times do we need to say it? Unarmed traffic enforcement to service traffic violations and accidents are a requirement. Police do not prevent gender-based violence. Research suggests that family violence is 2 to 4 times higher in the law enforcement community than in general public. Last October, London Constable Steve Williams was issued 23 charges, including 12 cases of discreditable conduct. Earlier last year, he pled guilty to 1 charge of neglect of duty and 2 counts of discreditable conduct. He was fined 6 days' pay, but is currently suspended with pay. Make it make sense. Create new investigative services where diverse teams of researchers and investigators with a mix of scientific, public health, and sociological expertise can attend to our investigative needs without the inherent anti-Blackness with which police services approach our unsolved cases. Create a civilian conflict resolution service to replace policing of minor bylaw infractions like noise complaints. Invest in people, not police. The safest communities have the most resources, not the most cops. At one point in history, people demanded an end to slavery. Of course, there was opposition, but slavery ended. At one point in history, people demanded an end to segregation. Of course, there was opposition, but segregation ended. In this point in history, we demand an end to police brutality. The opposition doesn't mean anything. This is the fight for our lives. We need to see an end to policing and these alternative services. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to the next person in the committee room, please.
Hello, Council, and thank you for having me. I'm Harper, and I'd like to speak with you about the police budget on behalf of Black Lives Matter. I'm a local business owner and a father to 2 young children. I should not be here, and yet here I stand. After the tumultuous summer we've had, I had expected the council to at the very least discuss the topic of defunding the police. For those of you who may cringe at the phrase defund the police, it means reallocating or redirecting funding away from the police to other government agencies. That's all it means. I'm not asking you to abandon everything all at once. Just treat the shortcomings of policing with the urgency and seriousness they command. This is about fiscal responsibility. I'm sure that everyone here would say they want to reduce police violence and crime. So let's talk about it. A police officer's training is not conducive to positive outcomes in many of the social interactions that they have. Police officers are trained in use of force tactics and preparing for worst case scenarios to reduce potential threats. However, most of their interactions with civilians start with a conversation. Shifting funding to social services that can improve things like mental health, addiction, and homelessness is a much better and more efficient use of taxpayer money. We need to focus on decriminalizing and destigmatizing people with mental health conditions and addiction problems. Now, I've heard the complaints, and I understand that police respond to a variety of calls, and police officers are increasingly asked to complete paperwork and online forms. Their workload is immense, and they are overworked and overstressed. Focusing on trivial tasks like paperwork throughout the day is a waste of taxpayer money. Other government agents should be responsible for these and receive adequate funding for doing them. A study using 60 years of data found that an increase in funding for police did not significantly relate to a decrease in crime. Hiring more police on the street to solve structural problems is one of the main reasons I was protesting during the summer. Defunding police, reallocating funding away from police departments to other sectors of government is a much more beneficial way of reducing crime and police violence. Lastly, I'll leave you with this. Policing as it's currently designed does not keep us all safer. Not all of us. For BIPOC citizens, it often criminalizes our existence and threatens our lives. We need to fix these structural and systemic problems, and we can't continue to hire more hands to bail water out of a sinking ship. It's just not working. Defund the police may seem like a radical idea, but it's not new, and it merely requires some exploration. In a time where we continually spew the phrase, listen to the experts, why can we not do the same here? Experts and professors in sociology, criminology, and more have written extensively about the benefits of defunding police departments, and sample sizes have been promising. As a Black man who grew up in Canada, I can tell you that my lived experiences are not reflected in any study or in any of the statistics. But I am tired of being ignored, and I'm tired of being silenced. There need not be one more Black teen after me who grows up in a white society that treats him like less than. Black lives matter, and I hope you take this seriously. It's not just a handle. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. I will go to the next person in the committee room. My understanding is there are 5 more in the committee room.
Hello. Members of the council, my name is Daniel Torres, and I'm here today to encourage the council to pass both the business case for film and the amendment from Councillor Squires and Van Holst to increase the budget from $200,000 to $300,000. I come to you as a proud Londoner. I'm a graduate of HBBL Art program and completed my film studies in Toronto at the Toronto Film School. Years ago, I directed and produced a feature film on a minimal budget here in London. I worked with an enthusiastic group of Londoners who had talent and dedication to the project. After the film school, I returned to London. I have worked as an artist and am a business owner who co-produced an international film and performed in local theater. I have also worked on multiple projects as a volunteer with Fanshawe students in the film department and HBBL students to mentor and guide local talent. After personal experience, I believe London and the surrounding areas have a fantastic opportunity to participate in the film and television industry. We have amazing talents in this city, which is why I have decided to produce my next feature film here in London with local talent and resources. The next film, currently known as Last the Night, was written by James Roberts, a local and fellow Londoner. Together, we have the vision to produce the film in London to help our local arts community while also creating an economic boost in the city. The film industry creates jobs and diverse work opportunities. London has a film program at both Western and Fanshawe, and for the most part, once completed, our local talent has to go elsewhere for jobs in their fields. That should not be the case. We should create opportunities for students to find employment in the industry they have chosen here in London. Currently, entertainment content is in a high demand, and production companies are regularly looking for flexible and attractive shooting locations. We also have the potential to create studio spaces for long-term film productions. The film industry offers multiple job opportunities and job titles, including post-production, where there are many moving components. Not only will London create quality productions, but will also increase the gross domestic expenditures within the city. So please reference the film strategy which Councillor Van Holst has provided, which clearly outlines the success of surrounding cities with film productions that have shown significant financial growth. This year has been trying and difficult for many of us. And having a film production that will involve many community members will be beneficial for the economy and encourage a positive and creative outlet for London's hardworking people. Thank you for listening to me and for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will go to the next person in the committee room, please.
Okay, good afternoon to all councilors and to the chair. My name is Jacob Windat, and I am a business owner, a husband, a father, and a Londoner. I live in the Soho district. Today I'm here to ask council to put serious consideration into passing the business case for the film industry, as well as the amendment from Councillor Squire and Van Holst to increase the budget. After moving here for postgraduate studies at Fanshawe College in 2003, I founded Grimm Brothers Entertainment, which was originally intended as a multimedia production company, but our focus soon shifted to live event production, with the last decade or so dedicated to larger scale and internationally recognized events, such as London Comic Con, Shockstock, Heatwave Expo, and more, which have all been held right here in the Forest City. After the coronavirus pandemic hit in the beginning of 2020, our entire slate of events had to be postponed. It hurt my business, and I found myself once again working in media. Recently, I've been brought on to co-produce a film, which will be shooting in September of 2021. 2020 has brought unprecedented hardships onto my business as well as our entire economy. But both my business and the city has an opportunity to come back within the next year stronger than ever through a working relationship with the film industry. Media-based entertainment has been a constant in every home before and during the pandemic, and it's something that will not change going forward either. The film and television industry was quick to adapt safely to COVID-19 protocols, and an increased demand in content has created thousands of additional jobs in Ontario alone, with demand increasing further into 2021. Bringing the attention of this massive industry to London would not only create jobs, but also bring production budget dollars. These dollars stay within our local economy and help build back restaurant, hotel, retail, and many more businesses, increasing growth in those markets as well. Also, by encouraging and building a strong film industry here, the city would be helping to facilitate a future for the many post-secondary students who, unlike myself, would otherwise be leaving the area to find employment in their industry. This city has always shown to me that opportunities for great things are possible if initiative is taken. London has the largest sports entertainment complex center in southwestern Ontario, with Budweiser Gardens facilitating many great internationally recognized and covered sporting and special events and concerts within the last 20 years. Our tech industry also has received many accolades, with digital entertainment and gaming companies such as Big Blue Bubble and Digital Extremes keeping headquarters right here in London. So I strongly believe that the film industry is the next in line to take that initiative if the city is willing to take the opportunity. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I will go to the next person in the committee room, please. I'm just going to ask one more time if the staff and the committee room can ensure that those who haven't spoken are, have had the opportunity to speak before we move on to the phone line. Okay, we're good. All right, so this is the part that is new. So I'm going to ask our staff to patch through the first caller for their consultation. I'm just going to welcome them after that. So if you could patch them through, please. Hello? Hello?
Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead with your input into our budget process. You have 5 minutes.
Wonderful, thank you. And thanks very much for the time today to speak to today's budget update. My name is Skyler Frank, and I work for the London Environmental Network, and I'm also a Ward 11 resident. I really appreciate the option to call into tonight's CPM, so I just want to say thank you to anyone at City Hall who had a hand in that. Really appreciate this addition for community engagement during this pandemic. So despite seeing a small drop in emissions at the beginning of COVID, emissions globally have continued to rise and climate action continues to be at the forefront of many residents' minds. In January to March of this year, Council will remember throughout the multi-year budget process, we saw an overwhelming support for climate and environment related spending from Londoners at the multi-year budget PPM. And I think you'll all remember the gallery was packed for both PPMs with residents speaking about the importance of climate and environment and a desire to see spending allocated towards those climate reduction projects. And that remains very steadfast in our community. So we were naturally very happy to see the Wonderland Road widening project being pulled out of this budget update for analysis with the screening tool. We do understand that due to COVID delays, the screening tool was unfortunately unavailable to screen the entire budget update, but understandable. But we were very happy to see the Wonderland Road widening project is being screened as likely recognized as having negative impacts on emissions. We're also aware that the August 11th Climate Emergency Plan update to FCCC, there was a commitment to screen 10 major transportation projects, which were supposed to be completed by fall 2020, and now are going to be completed by the end of Q1 in 2021. But prior to moving forward on those major transportation projects, which are embedded in the capital transportation section of the budget update, we'd like to suggest that staff be directed to pull out those other 9 transportation projects from the budget for a similar review and public screening that the Wonderland Road one is receiving prior to spending on any of those major transportation projects. And I'm unsure if staff were planning to make those screening reports public, but if not, we were hoping to request that staff make publicly available which of those, which 10 major transportation projects were being screened, as well as those final reports prior to any spending on those projects. Because carefully reviewing the 10 major transportation projects using the climate screening tool prior to spending the money would demonstrate leadership from the council on climate issues and potentially offer cost mitigation opportunities at a time when we need to be saving the most. So any delay or reduction in those major expenses for road widening for 2021 would help with saving a bit of money. And studies show that the best way to reduce traffic and congestion is not by widening roads, but instead by reducing the number of cars on roads. So investing in public transportation, cycling, and walking infrastructure. So while this year is not a business as usual year, we can all agree, hopefully this budget is also not business as usual with those looming climate and biodiversity crises. Every budget that we're passing now needs to be critically evaluated to ensure that spending year to year doesn't negatively impact our emission reduction targets. So I just encourage council members to have staff evaluate those 10 major transportation projects with the screening tool and report back to council prior to moving forward on those projects. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your time. I'll ask our staff to put the next caller on, please.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies. My name's Al Tucker. 280 Queens Ave, right across the street from City Hall. This is the first time I've ever viewed a municipal budget, and I'm not a CPA by any stretch, although I have run businesses. I'm overwhelmed with the details, and it's a Herculean task, I think, to put these things together for the size of our city. But I just want to quickly run down a few things that pop up into my mind here. I can make a general comment to start with. I submitted some information to the city a while ago with an idea that for the sustainable development of our city. And I talked about it in terms of it as an island, and that we should be considering everything to do with on our island to be aiming for the sustainability of that island and in a service to the residents. I just, to make it easy for myself and perhaps for you folks, I pulled off Appendix A, Complete Core Area Action Plan and Funding Sources. There's about 60 or 70 items listed there. And to make things brief, I'll just go down a few that I have a question about. One of them was I did submit a number 11 on that particular appendix, had to do with request for proposals on Queens Avenue parking lot. And I had noted for some time there was a sign on the property, one of the properties there, that suggested that someone wanted to expand for another 3 years, I think it was, the parking. And I objected to that on the basis that if we're going to do anything with parking, we probably need another multi-level parking area there instead of just a flat space. Let's see here. Some questions like number 20 on that list, it says establish more daytime resting spaces. Who would that be for? Anyone answer that question? Who would that be for? Daytime resting spaces?
We're not answering questions, we're listening to you, so please continue on with your comments, and you can connect with our finance staff later and get answers to any questions you have. So just continue on with your comments. You have about 3 minutes and 5 seconds left.
Okay, and then the next one, number 21, below that one, establish a core area stabilization spaces. I'm not sure what that means, so perhaps I can get an explanation later on that one. I understand the need for housing in the core, especially affordable housing. Let's see. I'm not so sure about number 25. I know the discussion about having an ambassador program on the, especially on the Dundas Place, but I'm not sure that there's going to be a lot of value in that, to tell you the truth. Police services, number 28, increase the London Foot Patrol. I'd be curious to know what is the current policy with respect to the London Police on foot in that particular area, and then what do they think would need to be increased by? Same with the one below that, number 29, about loitering regulations. I'm afraid to say it, but I feel that trying to enforce that, considering the situation we're in on Dundas Place, for example, it's just not enforceable in my humble opinion. But anyway, that's my comment on that one. The taking of number 32, a safety blitz on aggressive driving. Well, absolutely, and I think that I've already made a suggestion through my counselor, Ariel, that we should just shut down Dundas Place, for example, because I've seen vehicles speeding on that piece of road and heavy vehicles I commented on. So I think one way to solve that particular problem, we're hoping to have more pedestrians, is to just take the traffic off Dundas Place. Putting uniforms and things like that on city staff and servicing the core, I think if they're safety vests, to me, with the City of London on them, would be sufficient in terms of a uniform. Then we know that they're out there for our safety. The cleaning of the street, especially Dundas Place again, and there's a few other areas where they seem to be accumulating trash on a regular basis. I don't know what exists at the present time. I'm assuming there is a plan, and maybe they just need to tweak it up a little bit for that reason. The number 40 really struck me. Encourage shipping container pop-up retail uses during construction. Does that mean that there'd be a shipping container dropped on, let's say, Dundas Place while somebody's renovating their store? I don't think so. I don't think that's a good idea, so they to drop that idea. Number 43, of course, I have been voicing my opinion on the parking situation. We're competing with the malls that we helped to establish in this city, and now they've come back to bite us. So we need to provide more temporary free municipal parking. And I know we're already doing that in some ways, but we need to continue with that idea. I'm just going down here. Number 45 had to do with activate spaces and places with bistro chairs and tables. I don't know where that would be. If that's Dundas Place, I can just see that there'll be some abuse of that. So I'm not so sure as much as I'd like to see it myself. And I'm a senior citizen, so I enjoy walking it myself in the core.
That's, sir, that's your time. We're giving everybody 5 minutes, and you have had your 5 minutes. I would encourage you, for the questions you had, to contact our finance staff, and they can get some of the specific questions you had, but we appreciate your call. Appreciate your call.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Okay, I'll have our staff put the next caller on, please.
Nakisha Allen from the Congress of Black Women, London chapter.
Go ahead.
Ijaz Chantry, Regis Konchinsky Paquette, Chantel Moore, DeAndre Campbell. These are the names of just 4 Indigenous or Black Canadians who would have been killed during the wellness check by police since April 2020. One is too many. The Congress of Black Women is an organization that focuses on the well-being of Black women and their families. As such, we are very concerned at the alarming rate of wellness checks going wrong in our country, province, city. Responding to mental illness can be complicated and requires a special skill set, which is typically acquired from years of schooling and experience. This was a statement from an article written by Alex Cook with CBC News. As an organization, we understand the importance of policing. The Congress of Black Women have had a very positive relationship with the London police. However, it must be stated that the police are not equipped to manage the volume of mental health wellness calls that come in on a daily basis. It would be interesting to know how much the investment would be to reallocate police dollars to mobile crisis teams where there is a mental health professional and a specially trained police person. It is our position that funds be redirected to hire mental health professionals who can work alongside the police officer and subsequently train officers to properly address wellness checks that involve a Black or Indigenous person who has been diagnosed with a mental illness. The Congress of Black Women London chapter is also interested in the redirecting of funds toward a more aggressive recruitment program to hire Black, Indigenous, and other racialized officers. A diverse police force will help de-escalate the possible negative interaction between the London police and the public. We would further like to see an increase in the budget for other areas such as housing, employment, education, social services, and social support, training, and education of civil service to understand unconscious bias and anti-Black racism and anti-Black systemic racism. Finally, the Congress of Black Women London chapter would like to see funds redirected into Black community projects that will help bring about healing and reconciliation to our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll ask our staff to put the next caller on, please.
Go ahead.
Hey, Andrew Vandervoort.
Thanks. Go ahead, Andrew, with your comments. You have 5 minutes.
Perfect. I'm just calling in. I want to thank you for the opportunity as well. Being able to call in is awesome. Just referring to the strategic objective to growing the film sector in London. I just wanted to show my support for that for sure. It's nice to hear a couple other people in there as well. I think it's important to plan ahead. Obviously, there's a lot of pressing matters to take care of right now, but planning ahead for growth is super important. A lot of the film companies right now are realizing that it's possible to continue their projects while following COVID restrictions, and they're looking for cost-saving methods. And it sounds like our plan is really focused on small and mid-sized productions, which would save a lot of money by lowering their overhead in London through housing and food and things like that. We already have a number of recording studios in London, which would be a great sector to expand into post-production houses. And we have a lot of trained staff through Fanshawe and Western. So really, I just wanted to express my support. I know there's a lot of people in London in that sector who would love to work in that more. So I just really want to sorry, too much water. Really just express my support for bringing the London Film Office, and it would open a lot of jobs. St. Thomas has already had a lot of filming done in it, and the new Dundas place looks great. So really, I just wanted to support bringing the film industry here, and yeah, that's everything I have.
Great, thank you for your comments. And I'll ask our staff to go to the next caller, please.
Go ahead.
Rob Carver, Associate Dean.
Sure, you have 5 minutes. You can go ahead with your delegation.
Thank you. Mayor Holder, members of council, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you regarding my support for the establishment of a film office for the City of London. City staff have done an excellent job of, lost my computer there for a moment. Sorry about that. All right. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you regarding my support for the establishment of a film office for the City of London. City staff have done an excellent job of presenting the business case for this initiative, augmented by the work of Councillor Michael Van Holst. Recognizing this, I'll do my best not to repeat content already provided. Over the past couple of years, I have had the opportunity to work with city staff and the London Economic Development Corporation on building a case for a film office. And I believe now is the time to put the wheels in motion. Colleges from across Ontario have been working with the Film Production Group Stratagem for the past 2 years on strategies to build capacity for film and television production in Ontario. And Fanshawe is a key participant in this project. In April of 2019, I invited the Stratagem executive to visit London and meet with representatives from the city, LEDC, and local industry to learn of London's potential and provide advice on building up the industry locally. Founding partner, Michelle Alassanac, formerly the film commissioner for the City of Toronto, could not have been more clear in her message. London needs a film office if we are to be successful in attracting production. In a recent letter, Stratagem partner Jeff Mellinson took it further, stating, without a film office, the London opportunity will likely continue to be underrepresented to producers, and the strategy for growing the sector, which will require promotion, infrastructure, workplace development, and coordination amongst many vendors and sectors, may well be ineffective and piecemeal. It is also critical that we have our own film commissioner leading the charge of this initiative. 2 years ago, it was recognized that Ontario's main resource for attracting production, Ontario Creates, had very little to show in its database to sell London. Ontario Creates has responded to local pressure since then and updated its database. But those in our industry network tell us we need to do more ourselves. This past year, 5 students from Fanshawe participated in an internship with Stratagem focused on building a database for London. And that information has been shared with and put to use by the city and the LEDC. I'm pleased to say that our photography students continue to work with the LEDC on this project. With regard to cost, I would suggest that an annual budget of $300,000 would be required to adequately fund an effective film office. It is likely that $100,000 of that would be needed to attract the candidate with the experience, skills, and network necessary to showcase London as a city with the resources and talent producers look for when developing a project. While COVID has made many business interactions virtual, a strong operating budget will still be needed for promotion, workplace development, memberships, festival and conference attendance, and travel as the industry emerges from current circumstances. It's no secret that part of my motivation in supporting this initiative is to create an environment where Fanshawe graduates have the opportunity to live and work in London. Fanshawe graduates approximately 150 students every year in programs related directly to film and television production. And those students routinely tell us that they want to stay and work in London. Approximately 15 to 30% of graduates from our diploma program can expect to find work in London, but most of those jobs are in corporate video production or working for vendors such as Henry's. From our graduate certificate programs, only 5 to 10% are able to stay and work in London. However, Fanshawe graduates many other students who can find work in related areas, such as construction, catering, hospitality, accommodation, graphic design, and costume design. As you likely know, the global spend on film and television has surged in recent years, largely driven by the increased demand for content for streaming services. Wolfsburg SBI Consultants produced a report in June 2020 on screen production and global economic recovery. The report showed that the global spend on content reached $177 billion in 2019, and that is only counting narrative and documentary film and TV production, not news, sports, commercials, or music videos. While COVID shut down production for most part early on in the pandemic, producers are now finding ways to ramp up production once again, and industry representatives expect a surge in demand going forward. Producers are currently looking for new, safe territory to expand in from a locations, facilities, and support perspective. During and after COVID, many productions are expected to stay closer to home and will look to Canada given its effective management of the pandemic. According to the Allspec SPI report, finding a location where a project can be shot entirely in that one jurisdiction following the aim of limited travel is likely to be a preference in a post-pandemic world. London is such a place, and we cannot afford to miss this opportunity to stake our claim. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will go to the next caller. If our staff could put them on, that would be great. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hello, hi, good afternoon. My name is Melanie. Whoa, sorry. My name is Melanie Madison, and I am a Londoner. I live in the Argyle community. Thank you so much for this opportunity to participate remotely and to share my feedback and opinion. Excuse me. I'm a Black woman, and I'm the proud mother of a Black child. I face unconscious, biased, systemic racism on a daily basis simply because of the color of my skin. When people see me, they sometimes fear me, my child, and my family for no other reason than the skin that we occupy. And they do not think or consider that, like them, I am hardworking, deserving, smart, or educated, and that I also want access to a better life for myself and my family, like access to good paying jobs or benefits, governments that represent my interests and my needs, and a safe community for all. These forms of discrimination, bias, and systemic racism cannot continue It must change, and it needs to be addressed on a systemic level, not just the individual level. We all have a part to play, and I believe that we need to start with the London Police Service. The London Police Service is the largest expense item in the budget, receiving, I believe, 18% of our tax dollars. We need to defund the police by no less than 50% of its budget, from 18% to about 9%. And I think this is a great place to start. As a Black woman and as a mother to a Black child, the police do not keep us safe. I repeat, the police do not keep us safe. However, access to safe and affordable housing, community and social service programs, culturally appropriate health services can and do keep us safe. And this is why I would like to see a doubling of the budget for housing services from 2 to 4%, doubling of social and community support services from 3 to 6%, doubling of London Middlesex community housing from 2% to 4%, doubling of long-term care from 1% to 2%, double of Middlesex London Health Unit from 1 to 2%, and a doubling of public service support from 0.33% to 0.66%. I also want to see training made available for all government employees, training and education of civil servants to be able to understand unconscious bias, anti-Black racism, anti-Black systemic racism, and where it comes from, how it occurs, and for them to actually identify that they have it. And it's not their fault, but we need something to change, right? And I believe that this must be delivered by trainers from the group who are being discriminated against. So for example, by Black folks, because or by, whatever communities are being discriminated against, because we have the right expertise as a result of our firsthand and lived experiences of these discrimination. I believe that we need to actively work to support IE funding that will increase representation of membership of government employees from minority groups, particularly Black communities, to increase representation from minority groups, again, particularly Black communities, so that there's representation. Because I believe that if there was more representation and there were more folks that look like me or that look like other folks in government employees, that it would minimize or reduce discrimination. There also needs to be funding for policies that will support and help to heal and mend the damage that has occurred to members of the Black community as a result of direct or indirect systemic racism, discrimination perpetuated towards Black members of our community. And last but not least, investment to the Black community to allow us to be more self-sufficient, to heal from the harm that has been caused by systemic barriers, systemic racism, and discrimination. And I think this can be done by giving us the tools and the access to funding that we need, whether it's to create community programs to increase representation in the education system or other systems that are currently in place so that our voices are on the table at the beginning when decisions are being made instead of as an afterthought. Thank you again so much for letting me be involved. My name is Melanie, and I'm so glad to be able to share my opinion as a Londoner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Melanie. I will go to our staff to put the next caller on, please.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Davita Guslitz. I just wanted to say that the second paragraph in the budget is the step towards anti-racism and anti-oppression. It's a really nicely written paragraph. Starts out that municipal council has affirmed its commitment to eliminating systemic racism and oppression in our community. And I believe that this sentiment needs to be followed up with concrete steps towards reallocating the police budget, defunding, however you want to say it that makes you feel better about it. The end of this lovely paragraph says that courageous action is needed to drive transformative change. I hope that you will be that transformative change and take that courageous action to defunding the police budget and reallocating those funds to permanent housing for the unhoused, addiction services, mental health services, everything that we know actually reduces crime in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'll ask our staff to put the next color on, please.
Go ahead.
Shauna Lukowitz, President of the Urban League of London. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm speaking on behalf of our board. First, I want to commend staff and council for enabling this alternative and safer way to participate in the budget process, ensuring that there are ways for all residents to have an opportunity to speak to council issues is an important equity consideration and strengthens our democracy. We hope that alternatives like this continue to be in place past COVID-19 restrictions, as there will always be people for reasons of ability, health, childcare, work, lack of transportation, etc., who are unable to participate in person, but would like to speak directly to city issues and not just submit a letter. So we support the call by Black Lives Matter to open up discussion on the police budget and calls to examine areas for reductions. There was a lot of public support and solidarity with Black Lives Matter protests this summer and their various demands. And this solidarity needs to be backed up with honest and forthcoming discussions and actions by all of us. It's important that as council looks to address anti-Black racism in the many forms it takes in institutions and the community, that you be willing to listen intently and genuinely to what the Black community is telling you and what their calls to action are. As part of the budget process, council is tasked with making decisions around the police budget, and statements need to be backed up with action that demonstrate that you are listening and acting on the specific concerns of the Black community. Council can show its commitment to ending anti-Black racism by opening up the discussion on the police budget and taking action. We know that the pandemic has not impacted everyone equally and instead has exposed and widened existing inequities. Black, Indigenous, and racialized communities, low-income families and individuals, women, girls, trans, and gender diverse folks, seniors, and those with disabilities continue to be pushed to the margins. We commend staff on beginning to use an anti-racism and anti-oppression lens on parts of this budget. It is a beginning and one we're glad to see happen. Going forward, it is imperative that city decisions are made using a comprehensive, detailed anti-racism, anti-oppression, full equity lens. And to do that, the city needs to begin collecting disaggregated data to inform its future budgets and other decisions. We ask that staff and council make this a priority, and it's the only way we will truly get an equitable and just city for all. In addition, the Urban League would like to reinforce that council made historic and important investments in the four-year budget earlier this year. Key investments in housing, the downtown core, our neighborhoods, the climate crisis, and more. Since then, we've been thrown into a global pandemic that has only served to widen existing gaps, with more people living without stable housing or income, an increase in substance use and mental health issues, and the climate crisis continuing to worsen. It is vital that as we look ahead to recovery, we continue to make investments in services and policies that address these concerns long-term. Austerity and cuts would be detrimental to our community's well-being. We urge council not to reopen the business cases approved in the last four-year budget. We need to invest in services and the policies that support all people. Lastly, we have requested that council consider adding a second public participation meeting later this week after debate and discussion has begun by council. It is only once councillors start discussing the budget that the public can see where council priorities are. Having an opportunity to weigh in on the budget after these discussions have been had and before final approval is important to ensure residents can share and support concerns for council priorities. Thank you for your time and for engaging residents in this important process.
Thank you very much. I will ask our staff to put the next caller on, please.
Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Martin McIntosh, and I'm grateful to have this opportunity to address you at this public participation meeting as you set the task of the budget during these trying times and continued uncertainty. I am a proud member of the Black community, making my home London since 1978. I have grown here, I have learned here, I have loved here, and I am very proud to be a Londoner. I'm involved with a new community-inspired and informed grassroots initiative called the Black London Network, with a mission to uplift London's Black community through space, service, education, information, and representation. The Black London Network is currently in the process of strategic planning and organizational capacity building. And I also come before you carrying firsthand awareness and experience of challenges faced by Black London Network and other Black-led and Black-focused grassroots community-inspired organizations that are in the process of erecting community-centered approaches to addressing anti-Black racism in our community. I'm here to respectfully put before you a request for budget consideration and commitment to support of Black-led and Black-focused community-based organizations and initiatives as part of your continued and long-term commitment to addressing and fighting anti-Black racism, anti-Indigenous racism, and other diversity, inclusion, and equity efforts. I think it's really important to applaud the work of the Strategic Priority Policy Committee in passing motions this summer, acknowledging that systemic Black racism, anti-Indigenous racism, and racism against other people of color does exist in London, and that you unequivocally condemned racism in all its forms. And with that, the leadership you took in taking a look internally at the City of London's corporation workforce policies and practices. And also asking that local schools, the police service, as well as Middlesex London Health Unit respond as well. I think it's also important to applaud the work of Councillor Mosa Lee, Ward 3, and Councillor Josh Morgan to devote 1/4 of the $2 million annual community grant budget to groups fighting anti-Black racism, etc. Effectively using community grants programs to help empower community groups as they come up with ideas to address anti-Black racism and racism in all its forms. I do believe that this represents a tangible backing up of Council's previous motions condemning anti-Black racism and anti-Indigenous racism. I think that one of the things that's really important is that community members have made clear that money is a barrier, and I'm here to furthermore underline that accessing funding for grassroots organizations comes with additional barriers and challenges. Over the past several months, working with Black-led and other BIPOC community-inspired grassroots organizations, a significant barrier that I have witnessed is in access to funding, even as they begin the work of building capacity and healthy foundations to affect change and answer the call of nothing about us without us. One of the most common systemic barriers faced in my experience is meeting eligibility criteria, often requiring applicant organizations to be Black-led and also to meet the requirement of having registered nonprofit status. In the advancement of grassroots organizations, this has and continues to be a red light combination. While work around are being actively sought through partnering with organizations such as Pillar, Regional HIV/AIDS Connections, and other committed anti-racism, action-oriented established organizations, it comes with limitations and ultimately forms a barrier to accessing needed support from available funding opportunities. With respect to the community grant application, my understanding, which may stand to be corrected, is that multi-year grants are already set for several years, but that innovation and capital funding is given out annually. The hope is that within your budget planning, considerations would be made towards extending earmarked anti-racism funding to be eligible across multi-year budget. With respect to addressing anti-Black racism specifically, recognizing the broad scope of the community grant program, I'm making an additional call for demonstration of the City Council's sustained commitment to anti-Black racism, that newly found money be sourced outside of the community grants program to be made available to fund anti-Black racism work in London as part of the multi-year budget plan. I'm going to end with this, and I hope you don't mind. It's the mayor's word. My hope is that all of us on council and all Londoners remember the passion, the hurt, and the urgency that we heard from those who spoke at London's 10,000 strong Black Lives Matter protest. What truly matters, I quote, now, and what matters even more going forward is action. I do believe that the multi-year budget considerations and commitments aimed at supporting the capacity building of Black-led and Black-focused grassroots community-based organizations such as BLN, the Women's Congress, Black History Month Committee, as well as many other newly formed organizations such as Plump, for one, is an action that matters greatly in the commitment to the fight against anti-Black racism. I thank you for your time and for your consideration.
Great, thank you for your comments. We'll go to our staff for the next caller, please.
Go ahead.
My name is Chris Webb. I'm a member of resident of the downtown area.
You can go ahead with your comments. You have 5 minutes.
So unfortunately, I didn't hear anybody start with a land acknowledgement at the beginning of this meeting. Before I speak, I would like to start with one. Our city is on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Lenape-Wauk, and the Attawandaron peoples, on lands connected with the Dish with One Spoon Covenant Wampum and the London Township and Sombra Treaty of 1796. I urge you to start your meetings with a land acknowledgement, as it is a step towards abolishing racism in our community. Alongside this, your second step towards abolishing racism is going to be defunding the police. The London Police Service does receive 18% of our budget in London, which is very high. Among other cities, their police receive less. And I believe this needs to be cut in half. These funds need to be reallocated to housing services, social and community support services, community housing, long-term care, and the health unit. This is an important step towards demarginalizing people, Indigenous people, Black people in our community. As you've seen across the country, this is quite the problem. Like, these people should not be treated like this. I really urge you to cut it in half. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I'll have our staff put the next caller on, please.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
My name is Samuel Day.
Yes, you can go ahead. You have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'm speaking as a London citizen as well as a worker in social housing. Part of looking at the budget is where our tax dollars are being spent. And as other callers have mentioned, the London Police Service makes up 18% of our tax dollars, compared to 2 and 3% for various different social housing programs. Being able to at least double the budget for these programs will exponentially increase the amount and the frequency that we're able to house people at. Being able to get people off the street and giving them a safe place to live will reduce contact with the criminal justice system, as well as readmissions to the hospital and other addiction and mental health organizations. This should be a focus for the budget moving forward, as that disproportionately affects people of color and other marginalized communities. That's all I have to say.
Great, thank you for your call. I'll go to our staff for the next caller, please.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Mackenzie Metcalf.
Go ahead, Mackenzie. You have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. My name is Mackenzie Metcalf, and I'm the Vice President of External Affairs at the University Students' Council at Western University. On behalf of 35,000 undergraduate and professional students at Western, I'm here to highlight the importance of transit, sustainability, and an intersectional lens on this budget cycle. Continued investment in services such as the London Transit Commission, as well as the 60% Waste Diversion Action Plan and Gender-Based Analysis Plus of the city budget will help our community grow and further its status as a leader for municipalities in Ontario. London has become a home to many students at Western, including myself, and our engagement with community organizations, small businesses, and academic research has made us a key part of the London community. I want to take this as an opportunity to voice the concerns of the Western community and advocate for programs and policies that will undoubtedly better the Western community and the broader London community as a whole. First and foremost, accessible and reliable transit decreases barriers to post-secondary education for students. Tens of thousands of post-secondary students rely on the LTC every day to travel between where they live, study, work, and play, contributing over $350 million to the London economy each year. While the USB is heartened to see services levels beginning to increase following the barriers caused by COVID-19, the decrease in service times serve as a major barrier for students, especially those in traditionally marginalized communities. The USB urges the City of London to restore transit services to 100% of September 2019 levels as soon as possible to ensure the safety of students and further the accessibility of education. Accessible transit is a key component of London's economic recovery, as we cannot have a lively growing city without an accessible form of transportation that allows all Londoners, regardless of their socioeconomic status, to get to and from where they need to go. Further, we must prioritize women, people of color, and low-income Londoners in our community's COVID-19 economic recovery. In light of the COVID-19 pandemic, many communities have been disproportionately impacted. Whether it's the increases in domestic violence as a result of isolation, the gendered nature of job losses with COVID-19, or the higher vulnerability of COVID-19 for some communities, COVID-19 has not affected every Londoner the same. Therefore, our economic recovery plan needs to take into account the diversity of lived experiences for all those impacted. As such, it is integral for the City of London to prioritize a gender-based analysis plus approach when considering policy and investment options in relation to the budget. A gender-based analysis plus approach is a tool that can help to ensure the city's economic recovery stimulates opportunities for all Londoners without leaving women, people of color, or low-income Londoners behind. Lastly, sustainability is an issue that is close to many of our hearts. A healthy planet means a healthy future for us, our children, and for our grandchildren. Our community is extremely concerned about the delays in the implementation of the 60% Waste Diversion Action Plan, especially in regards to the Green Bin Initiative. Understanding that this delay was needed for COVID-19, the delay will have negatively impacted the city's ability to reach its waste diversion action goals, placing London behind similar-sized cities such as Waterloo and Ottawa, and causing long-term environmental damage. In order to achieve our 60% waste diversion goals, the City of London needs to act. On behalf of the students at Western, a key stakeholder within the London community, I want to thank you for creating an important space for the leaders of tomorrow. We look forward to working alongside you to build a stronger, more inclusive London. We hope that students' perspectives will be included as you make your important decisions for our city moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mackenzie. I'll have our staff go to the next caller, please.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, it's Mohammed Musa.
Go ahead, Mohammed. You have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this PPM. Last PPM we had on budget deliberations, on the budget deliberations was about 9.5 months ago. We were staring down the barrel of an upcoming pandemic. The comments I just wanted to make, and I'll try and make them as brief as possible, is the one issue I had back in February of this year. We need to remove the $13 million for consultations for a new city hall out of the budget as a tax reduction, not into a fund, whether it's a contingency fund, whether it's surplus fund or anything of that nature. It needs to be removed. I think the last 9.5 months have indicated to us that a new city hall might be off the table. And I think that needs to come back to the taxpayers. I don't think it really should be put into some other fund. I read somewhere where every $6 million is a 1% tax increase. Math is somewhat fuzzy depending on where you read. But over 4 years, $13 million by my math, quick and dirty, would be about 0.5% decrease yearly. Now, I may be incorrect in those numbers, but as I said, that's what I did read. Infrastructure. Congratulations on the 20 million from the 19.8 from the feds. We need to spend our money on infrastructure. That is exactly where the money needs to go. I'm not here to talk about any other projects. I mean, it's been very tough coming up with this budget. I don't like multi-year budgets because you can't see contingencies. The last council had to deal with an increase in minimum wage. This council has had to deal with a pandemic. LPC is hemorrhaging money right now, and you can't put enough contingencies in place with a multi-year budget. Too many unforeseens. Once again, I'm going to stress the city hall consulting fees. It's exorbitant. I did mention in February, and I will mention again, it's obscene that we're paying that kind of money. It needs to be removed from the budget. Other than that, I think I'm pretty much done. So thank you so much, Chair and committee and staff for hearing me.
Great, thank you for your comments. I'll go to our staff for the next caller, please.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Daniel Aboud. I am a 22-year veteran of the film industry in Ontario. Mr. Mayor and City Councilors, thank you for allowing me this time to speak. I'd like to talk to you about the prospect of attracting film production into the City of London. And understand that there is an initiative underway to move that along, and I feel that funding this initiative would greatly help the City of London. It's a huge opportunity to capitalize on a growing film industry in Canada and in Ontario. It is also a chance to generate many jobs in the City of London, especially in the wake of the losses of things of corporations like Kellogg's, the reduction of General Dynamics, or formerly Caterpillar, formerly GM Diesel. This is an opportunity to have money flow into the city that the city has not yet seen. With the attraction of film crews coming into the city to shoot, the money provided by production companies, money spent by crews in their off hours, there is a great deal that can be taken in by the City of London. Also, London has two great film schools, one at Western and one at Fanshawe College. Unfortunately, all the talent from those schools has to go away to Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal for them to practice their craft. We're losing a lot. This is a way to keep these people at home. The job creation that is possible in this business is not only, it's job creation that is for people from all walks of life. In my time working in the film business, I have worked with PhDs. I've worked with people who haven't finished high school. On a film set, we are all equal. We are all contributing to the communities in which we work. I strongly urge the City of London to vote to fund an office to help attract film production to the City of London. I have worked in cities like Sudbury, Sault Ste. Marie, Hamilton, Ottawa, and London has as much to offer, if not more, to offer the film industry. I really do believe that the City of London can do quite well as a filming center in Ontario and in Canada. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for the call. I'm going to go to the city clerk. My understanding is that exhausts the callers waiting on the line, and I believe the committee room also has had everybody speak who wanted to speak, but I want the clerk to just double confirm that before I look for any motion to close the public participation meeting.
Through Mr. Chair, I can confirm that there is no one waiting in the committee rooms, and I would ask Ms. Raycroft, who is dealing with the phones tonight, thank you, Jeannie, to confirm that there are no other callers.
No other callers waiting in the queue.
All right, thank you very much. And thank you for your work in assisting us with queuing those callers. I think that was very helpful and the process went relatively smooth. So thank you for your work on supporting that part. With that exhausts the public delegations portion of this PPM. So I will look to my colleagues for a motion to close the public participation meeting. I see Councillor Hillier and Councillor Turner. Any discussion? Seeing none, so we'll open that for voting.
Closing the vote, the motion's passed 15-0.
Great, and I believe we need a motion to receive the communications that were on the agenda. If the clerk wants to confirm that. Or, yeah, okay, so I'll look for a mover or a seconder. I see Councillor Cassidy, Councillor Hopkins. Any discussion on that? And this motion includes receiving all of the speaker's comments as well. I see the mover and seconder nodding. Okay, no comments on that, then we'll open this one for voting as well.
Closing the vote, the motion's passed 15-0.
Thank you. I just want to again echo a thanks to our staff and all of the staff who worked on pulling together that call-in ability for this PPM. I know it took away a number of people's weekends to do both the setup and the testing. I would say that went pretty flawlessly, and so that's a function of your good work over the weekend and pulling that together, and it's greatly appreciated by council. I see no items for direction. Are there any deferred matters or additional business? I see none. Then before we adjourn, I will just say for the public, the debate on the budget starts on December 10th, which is a Thursday at 9:30 a.m. So if you're interested in seeing the debates and the discussion that council has on this, that's certainly the time to observe it. Up until then, you can still certainly share your comments with your local councillor and put it in through the feedback process. The clerk is looking at me like I've said something wrong. No, she hasn't. She's just looking for me to adjourn. So with that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Squire, Councillor Lewis. We'll do this as a hand vote. Can we do that? Yeah, okay, I see nodding. All those in favor, those on the screen, please raise your hand. I'll let the clerks call this one.
Motion's carried.
Okay, thank you. We're adjourned. Thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it.